This video contains elements that are not suitable for children under the age of 14. Viewer discretion is advised.
You used to call me on my cell phone anytime you need to talk.
This song was a #1 hit for 6 weeks. How? Okay, you know what? I take back what I said about 7-Eleven. This is the most inexplicable hit of 2015. Like, okay, I understand how we got to a point where this was possible. So in 2014, you've got The Weeknd, a popular underground R&B singer who makes really dark, gritty, intense, and distinctively non-pop songs. At the end of the year, he introduces himself into the pop world by featuring on an Ariana Grande song, gets the public's attention in 2015 by making the theme song to 50 Shades of Grey, and then ends up becoming a superstar with Can't Feel My Face, an upbeat throwback to Michael Jackson that hit #1. In essence, he became the next Sia, an artist with a devoted cult following who managed to make the jump into pop stardom by making his sound more accessible. That part makes sense. What does not make sense is that after 3 separate singular weeks of Can't Feel My Face desperately clinging to the #1 spot, The Weeknd replaces himself at #1 not with another funky dance jam, but with a bass-destroying, ultra-distorted banshee shriek of a single named after a cult classic horror movie about savage hillbilly cannibals with an Ethiopian lullaby as an outro. And if you think that that title is just a random homage that has nothing to do with the song, well, I mean, yeah, you're right, but even if there are no specific references to the movie in this song, I still think that the song is channeling the movie's spirit because this is a dark, raw, ugly song.
I just fucked 2 bitches before I saw you, and you gon' have to do it at my tempo.
The Weeknd on this song sounds almost incapacitated, slurring words and stumbling over syllables as evidence of the toll his lifestyle has taken on him. I mean, the message that The Weeknd is trying to get across with this song is basically this. Yeah, like that, but The Weeknd on this song is the embodiment of this lifestyle taken to the extreme. Abel isn't trying to present himself as a badass player you want to emulate. Instead, he's portraying himself as a broken man, aimlessly wandering from one hit to the next, one woman to the next, to the point where he barely even feels anything anymore.
Always try to send me off to rehab. Drugs started feeling like it's decaf.
And not only do the lyrics and delivery support this, but so does the music, as it shifts from ominous and twinkling on the verses to an avalanche of distortion on the hook, as all The Weeknd's habits come crashing down around him as he accepts that this is who he really is.
I only love it when you touch me, not feel me when I'm fucked up. That's a real me when I'm fucked up. That's a real me, yeah.
Indeed it is. And luckily for Abel, the public accepted the real him for who he was, and they moved right on past his pop stuff to turn The Hills into far and away The Weeknd's biggest hit. I mean, it still makes absolutely no sense, but then again, neither did that time he dated Selena Gomez for a year, so I guess it evens out. Jeez, imagine going from dating this guy
If I was your boyfriend, never let you go,
to dating this guy.
Nigga, back the fuck up. If you ain't with me, motherfucker, you against me.
Well, I guess in the end, the heart wants what it wants.
What was that shot?
Nothing!
I know when the hotline bling, I can only say one thing.
So, what could possibly rank higher than such a grand, epic, emotionally devastating powerhouse of a song?
In love with the money, I ain't never letting go. And I get high with my baby, baby. I just left the mall, I'm getting fly with my baby, yeah.
Why Trap Queen over 679? I don't know. Is the production on Trap Queen any better? Not really. Are the lyrics any better? Nope. Does the loss of Fetty's posse detract anything? Honestly, Yeah. Does Fetty sound any less like a constipated slide whistle on this song? Quite the contrary, actually.
She ain't wantin' for nothing because I got her everything is big. You up in the bed though.
So why Trap Queen over 679? I honestly don't even know. All I do know is that when it comes to Fetty Wap, logic kinda isn't really all that important. I suppose the closest reason I can come up with is that Trap Queen is more catchy, but I think the better way to put it is that Trap Queen is more iconic. This was the fourth biggest song of the entire year of 2015. I wasn't listening to any rap at all in 2015 and I still knew about Trap Queen, the big hit from that weird new rapper who sounded like a hiccuping cow, but somehow managed to put a massive smile on your face whenever you heard him.
I ain't never let go. I'll be smoking dope and you know backwards what I roll. When me boy Fetty eating shit up, that's for sure.
679 is probably objectively better than Trap Queen, but I still find myself returning to Trap Queen considerably more often. It's more unpolished than 679, but that just makes it feel more real and genuine. Fetty Wap just seems like the type of guy that I genuinely enjoy cooking a pie with.
And I can ride with my baby. I'll be in the kitchen cooking pies with my baby, yeah.
Look, guys, I'm sorry. When I put a song on a list like this, I try as hard as I can to explain, like, what my thought process is, like, why I enjoy it, try and put some rationalization to it, but I'm honestly kind of drawing a blank here. Trap Queen is just a song that makes me genuinely happy every time I listen to it. And if that's not the mark of a great pop song, I don't know what is. Trap Queen by Fetty Wap. A strange, wonderful song by a strange, wonderful pie means drugs, doesn't it? Like he's teaching the girl how to cook pies, and that means he's teaching her to cook. I literally just got that.
Ever since I left the city, you and me, we just don't get along.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time.
In 1954, record executive Sam Phillips said that he could make $1 million if he could just find one white boy who could sing like a black man. A few months later, and he was one of the richest producers alive, most of it made off of the success of his biggest star, Elvis Presley, who became one of the most iconic and successful musicians in history by introducing white America to rock and roll, becoming widely known as the King of Rock, while the black artists who pioneered the genre were largely marginalized and ignored at the time. Now, there are many who will argue that Elvis's appropriation of black culture wasn't as big an issue because he was one of the most talented and charismatic performers of the century who deserved all the success he got. And that does include me. I believe that wholeheartedly. However, when you have people like Patrick Boone, Michael Bolton, and Iggy Azalea becoming some of the biggest names in their respective genres, I think we can all agree that they only got where they were because they were less threatening versions of more deserving artists who came before them. I mean, for God's sake, the first hip-hop act ever to hit #1 in the US was by Vanilla Ice, and I dare you to look me in the eye and say that it was because he deserved it the most. So, here's a question. What would happen if a legitimately talented white rapper started to feel guilty for this very reason, and so to make sure that he wouldn't get any more accolades, he decided to throw all of his talent at one of the stupidest concepts he could think up? I mean, that'd be ridiculous, right? And even if he did, what kind of idiot would actually enjoy that? Okay, that whole thing I just said, the white guilt thing, that is the only explanation I can think of for how and why this song exists. Keep in mind, the biggest hit off of Macklemore's first album was about deconstructing the materialism of the hip-hop lifestyle, and another hit off that album was about legalizing gay marriage. The big hit off of Macklemore's second album was about going shopping for used mopeds.
I went to the moped store, said fuck it. Salesman's like, what up, what's your budget? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know nothing about mopeds. He said, I got the one for you, follow me. Ooh.
Like, literally, this is just a song about Macklemore buying a moped, and then about all of the experiences he has on said moped. On the scale of things worth writing songs about, well, we're not quite at the Two Phones level yet, but we're certainly getting in that direction. And even setting aside the premise, this is a bizarre song. It's chock full of artists who either aren't or haven't within this century been a thing. The beat switches up about half a dozen times, and I think that every single style of upbeat hip-hop that's ever existed makes an appearance somewhere in this song. There is no cohesion, there is no deeper meaning, and to be honest, there really isn't much of a point to it existing at all. But here's the thing. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis are very, very good at making music.
Birdman, goddamn man, everybody got Bugattis. But I'ma keep a hell in 1987, head into the dealership and drop a stack in copper Kawasaki. I'm stunning on everybody, hella raw pasta wasabi.
Yes, this song is ridiculous, and slapdash, and pointless, but they just put so much effort into it. Listen to those piano riffs, the great sense of build-up during the bridge, the thunderous explosion of the chorus. This song may sound like 4 different songs stapled together, but all of them sound amazing. This is probably Ryan Lewis's best ever work as a producer. The sparse but still up-tempo and layered beat under Mac's part gives a sense of nostalgia, and the recruitment of several original MCs from the late 80s gives them a tangible sense of authenticity. Also, this song is legitimately hilarious and yet oddly sincere at the same time.
Neighbors yelling at me like you need to slow down. Going 38, Dan, chill the fuck out. Mow your damn lawn and sit the hell down. I only had one helmet, I would give it to you. Give it to you.
I still have no clue why Macklemore and Ryan Lewis decided to put this much work into such a ridiculous concept, but if there's one thing I've learned about 2015, it's that you can't think about it too hard, you just have to roll with it. And thanks to this song, I think I know how I'm gonna do my rolling from this point onwards.
Oh yeah.
You make me feel like I did you wrong. Going places where you don't belong.
Yeah, that last song was pretty good, but do you know it's one step better than Downtown? I told you at the end of my last video that this wasn't gonna be my number 1, and did you believe me? No, you didn't. Now eat it.
Don't believe me, just watch. Come on. Don't believe me, just watch.
You may have noticed that in my videos it's not too uncommon for me to say, I'm not gonna talk about this one for too long. Usually when I say that, I mean that most of my thoughts on the song revolve around 1 or 2 qualities, or that my thoughts on the song are difficult to quantify, so I'm not gonna spend too much time going into it. However, this time I mean it literally. I am not going to analyze Uptown Funk at all. I don't need to. Uptown Funk is probably the most critically acclaimed smash hit of the entire decade, and there is not one single point that I can praise it for that hasn't been showered upon it in droves by everyone else before me. Almost every single person I've seen talk about this year has named Uptown Funk one of their favorite songs of 2015, and if they didn't, it's only because they already named it one of their favorite songs of 2014. I myself have already named it the 10th best of the biggest hits of all time, and in my videos, Uptown Funk has become shorthand for everything great about music in the 2010s. It's the biggest song of 2015, it's the 4th biggest song of all time, and it well and truly deserves every accolade and every bit of praise that it's garnered. You may think I'm only leaving this song off the number 1 spot for the sake of unpredictability, and frankly that's not an unreasonable assumption to make. This is such a universally beloved song that people might think you're a bit simple if you say that it's your favorite song of the year. Kinda like if you said that your favorite song of all time is Hey Jude or Smells Like Teen Spirit. Uptown Funk was at number 1 for a while, and I ended up switching it and my current number 1 back and forth about half a dozen times, and this is how it honestly turned out. Uptown Funk is my 2nd favorite song of the year, and we'll get to my favorite song right after the honorable mentions.
Ever since I left the city,
Okay, so I had to be a bit conservative with my honorable mentions this year. Usually when I put an honorable mention on the list, it's because it's either something I wanted to put on the list but didn't have space, or it just had, some sort of element that I liked that I felt was worthy of being praised and pointed out. This time, because there were so many songs that I just really appreciated on some level, I had to limit the list to only songs that I actually seriously considered putting in the top 10 at some point. There are 15 of them. 15. A quarter of this year-end list was good enough to potentially be one of my favorite songs of the year. I don't have anything else to say, let's just get to it. Probably the second most polarizing hit of the year after Honey I'm Good, and I'm firmly in the love camp, although I think it has everything to do with production and very little to do with Demi Lovato's voice. I don't think she's as powerful a vocalist as she's given credit for on this song. I mean, okay, she can be powerful on her songs, but when she does, it's less like an explosion and more like a dentist's drill.
Baby, I'm sorry. Give me one good reason why I should never make a change.
A sweet and charming little song from an artist with a voice that sounds like high-end Swiss chocolate with really quaint instrumentals that was just below Ghost and Waves as far as my favorite radio hits of this year go. This was my final cut for the list because I tried to be as honest with myself as possible, and this is a song that I'm glad exists more than I actually listened to it. Also, this music video looks like an homage to Wes Anderson made by someone who's seen every Wes Anderson movie exactly once. This song was my second to final cut from the list because, honestly, ridiculous music video aside, this song is wonky in the best way possible. The production is experimental in a good way, and it works spectacularly, even if it's not a song I want to return to very often.
Take me to church, I worship like a dog at the shrine of your life.
How the hell did Hozier and Sam Smith break out at the same time, and somehow Sam Smith is the one who stuck around? Seriously, go listen to his second biggest hit, Someone New, and tell me that Stay With Me deserved to be a hit and it didn't.
Little stupid ass, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, bitch.
This is basically my theme song every time I see another human being.
I haven't had a good time in a long time,
This is basically Drake's theme song every time he sees another human being.
Your whole style and approach I invented, and I ain't taking that back cause I meant it.
I am astonished that a song with that title managed to catch on. Seriously, if you don't know what truffle butter means, then for the love of God, do not Google it. You're Googling it right now, aren't you? Either that or you paused the video and you just unpaused it and you have just Googled it. Well, anyway, that reference did hold this song back a lot, but I can't deny that this is a hot beat, and all three artists give well above average performances. Even Lil Wayne, whose verses take a break in the middle to do this.
Put your hands on the toilet, I put one leg on the tub, girl, this my new dance move, I just don't know what to call it.
Sean, what are you doing?
Oh, well, this is the hottest new dance craze that's sweeping the nation. If I do this, then I'm going to get mad cred with the youth and get all of the views on my YouTube channel. You should try it.
Mom, are you proud of your son?
No.
She told me don't worry about it.
Honestly, this song probably deserves to be on the list proper more than The Hills, but while this is a great song, we've got plenty of others like it. We ain't got many others like this. A fun little dance jam that can be enjoyed when you're in many different moods. But if you're not in one of those many different moods, then good lord is this the most irritating song in the world. This one was pretty close to making the list. The only things holding it back were how weak the instrumentals are in the first half of the verses and how generic a lot of the lyrics are. Other than that, this is all pretty stellar. Easily the best beat drop of DJ Snake's career. This is the best single that Taylor Swift has ever put out, and everything about it is damn near perfect for what it is. It's not on my list because it's not something I listen to much because I can't really relate to the lyrics in any way, but by God is this good. This song wore out on me faster than I'm okay with, but I'm fine with that because A, that doesn't mean it's not a good song, and B, if it weren't for X's and O's, I wouldn't have heard Elle King's second follow-up to it, America's Sweetheart, which is one of my favorite songs of all time.
So, pick out the jams, pick up the soul, pour another glass of that rock and roll, turn up the band, find the hole, gonna lose control tonight. What do you want from me?
But I knew my rent was gonna be late about a week ago. I worked my ass off, but I still can't pay it though.
If I had to pick one song that best demonstrated why 2015 was such an amazing year for pop music, it would be Time of Our Lives. The concept of this song is that you've worked yourself into the ground all week to try and pay your rent, but after all that work you still can't pay it, so instead you're going to use that money to throw an epic party on the last night of freedom before you get evicted. I can't believe that more songs haven't used this concept. It's quite possibly the best concept I've ever heard for a club song. Unfortunately, most of the verses are just Pitbull going on and on about how awesome the party is, so it kinda loses its impact. But even then, this is probably the best that Pitbull has ever sounded. He is still Pitbull though, no doubt about that.
You know me, I'm off in the cut, always like a squirrel, looking for a nut.
I cannot believe they actually played that on the radio.
Let's get it now.
I've got fire for a heart, I'm not scared of the dark. You've never seen it look so easy.
I've said some contentious things about One Direction during this countdown, haven't I? I recognize that this is a group that people have legitimate, passionate hatred for, even a few years after the fact. And let me just say, I get it, okay? I understand why this group was so loathed. And I fully admit that my perception of them is colored by the fact that their biggest songs in America were also their least egregious. The radio around here played a lot of Story of My Life and What Makes You Beautiful, and not a lot of Live While We're Young and Little Things. But even beyond me, I think that the hatred towards One Direction did die down a couple years after their debut, and they just kind of faded into the background, at least until the breakup. So, what was the turning point that was able to save them from their public condemnation? Well, I would put the credit for that on their third album, Midnight Memories, more specifically on the second single from that album, Best Song Ever, which seemed to mark the turning point to them where all their singles after that were tolerable at worst and actually kinda good at best. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? Best Song Ever is a really solid pop song about meeting the most amazing girl in the world and spending an evening of joyous bliss dancing with her as the music and connection blend together to create an almost indescribable feeling of ecstasy. I do admit though that it does strike me as a bit weird that in all my research, it doesn't seem to me like the song they were dancing to actually exists. I guess they just couldn't think of any song that could adequately capture the magic of that moment that they were describing. In 2015, someone released the song that they were dancing to.
Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me.
I said that my number one wouldn't be the most obvious choice ever. I didn't say anything about the second most obvious choice.
Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back, she said shut up and dance with me.
There are certain benefits to making a list like this a few years after the fact, reflecting back on the music of a year that you personally experienced with the benefit of hindsight and a certain degree of distance. I can tell you that if this list had been made in 2015, this song would not be my number one. It might not even make the list at all. The appeal of this song comes from how perfect it is. There is no world before this song, and there is no world after this song. For 3 minutes and 20 seconds, this song transports you to a self-contained world where the only thing that matters is this woman. This beautiful, vicarious, perfect woman who you've only just met, who puts you into a realm of pure adrenaline. I have never heard a song that conveys the feeling of pure ecstasy quite like this one.
She took my arm, I don't know how it happened. We took the floor and she said, oh, don't you dare look back.
And over these instrumentals, in his smooth, tightly controlled tenor, this guy sings about this woman, about her features that all align perfectly to his fantasy, almost as if his dreams have literally come to life, but only for one night.
Deep in her eyes, I think I see a future. I realize this is my last chance.
And that's both the beauty and the tragedy of this song. He knows that it's not going to last. This night is just a moment, a singular, fleeting moment. It's perfect, but it's ephemeral, and he accepts that. He knows that nothing is going to happen, that nothing lasting is going to come of it. He probably doesn't even know her name. But for that one night, that one perfect night in each other's arms, the world belongs to them. Through its sound, its energy, its lyrics, and its vibes, Shut Up and Dance flawlessly captures the magic of a single, perfect, once-in-a-lifetime dance. Can you see why this song holds up exceptionally poorly to overplay?
We were victims of the night.
This song is meant to capture the feeling of a moment that's so perfect because it's so unique and special, which really doesn't come through if you're hearing the song on the radio more than half a dozen times a day for several months straight. When I hear people complain about overplay in 2015, this is the song that I hear talked about the most, and that's why that is. It's not a song that's meant to be overplayed by the design of what it is. It's not exactly a once-in-a-lifetime experience if you literally experience it more times a day than you urinate. However, like I said, that's the benefit of doing these lists in hindsight. Now that time has separated me from it, I can recognize this song for the instant classic that it is, and now that I can control how frequently I hear it, I can say without any hesitation that this is one of my all-time favorite pop songs. It sucks that Walk the Moon weren't able to follow this song up with another hit, but then again, maybe it was for the best. Maybe it's so special because all the stars aligned just right for the band to release the perfect dance song. Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon, the best hit song of 2015.
Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Yeah, suicide if you ever try to let me go. I'm sad, I know, yeah. I'm sad, I know, yeah. I gave her everything, she took my